Ever find yourself kind of daydreaming about like our earliest ancestors?
Yeah.
Beyond like what we see in museums?
Yeah.
I mean, like what their lives were really like, what they could actually do.
Yeah, totally. It's fascinating, right? Like going beyond the bones and trying to picture them moving around in their world.
Yeah, exactly. And today we're going to like dive deep into one very specific aspect of that, running.
Oh, yeah, running. That's a good one.
Yeah, so we're focusing on Australopithecus afarensis.
Ah, Australopithecus.
Yeah, a really important early human ancestor lived a few million years ago.
Right. And when you think about Australopithecus afarensis, the image that probably pops into your head is Lucy.
Luffy, yeah.
That almost complete skeleton found in Ethiopia back in 74.
Yeah, incredible discovery.
Oh, yeah, she's iconic.
Right.
Lucy represents a major step forward in us understanding, how we transition to walking upright.
Absolutely. And she really captured the world's imagination.
Totally.
And, gave us amazing insights into early bipedalism. So to really understand, like, how well Lucy and her kind could run, we've got some pretty cool research to dig into today.
All right, let's hear it.
It's a report that uses some seriously advanced computer simulations to figure out afarensis' running abilities.
Okay, so we're talking like the kind of tech you'd see in designing cars or airplanes or something?
Exactly, yeah. High-level stuff, and all based on Lucy's remains.
Wow.
Which are known scientifically as AL2881.
Right, AL2881. Got it.
So our goal today is pretty simple. We want to see how off-ear afarensis is running stacked up against us modern humans.
Okay, so like, what were their limits? What were maybe some surprising strengths? And ultimately, what does all this tell us about the evolution of human running, over millions of years?
That's the big question, right? So first off, how do you even go about simulating how a creature that lived millions of years ago actually ran?
Right, that's a great question.
So walk us through this computer modeling approach.
Well, the researchers basically built a digital version of Lucy's body inside a computer.
Oh, wow.
So her bones, her muscles, everything.
Really a virtual Lucy.
Yeah, and then they used the laws of physics to see how this virtual Lucy would move. It wasn't just like a cartoon animation. They were analyzing the actual forces and the mechanics involved in each step. Like really breaking it down.
Oh, that's cool. And to figure out like her top speed and how much energy it would take her to run, these machine learning.
Yeah.
Which is a type of artificial intelligence.
Right. Helps you find patterns in complex data.
Yeah. So basically machine learning for a prehistoric human.
It sounds kind of wild, right? But it's actually a really powerful tool for understanding these complicated biological systems.
Okay.
So the machine learning helped them find the most efficient ways for virtual Lucy to run given her specific anatomy.
So they're like optimizing her virtual running form.
Yeah, exactly. And to make sure their virtual experiments were on point, they didn't just jump straight to Lucy.
Okay.
They created computer models of modern humans, too.
Oh, that's smart.
And then they compared the simulation results to actual measurements of people running.
Oh, that's a good way to checkmate.
Yeah, so things like top speed and the forces our feet put on the ground.
Right, so real-world data.
And the fact that their human simulations matched up well with real-world data gives us confidence in what they found for afarensis.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like calibrating your instruments.
Exactly.
Okay, so the big takeaway is that the model showed Lucy could actually run on two legs.
Yes, exactly. That's a major finding.
And even if they change things in the model, like how muscular she was or the structure of her calf muscles.
Right, they tweaked a bunch of things.
She could still run.
Yeah, it was pretty consistent across all the simulations of.
Yeah.
Afarensis was mechanically capable of running on two legs.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and this held true whether they model her with chimp-like muscle proportions or human-like ones.
They really tried to cover the bases, huh?
Yeah, they did, and they also looked closely at her triceps serrae.
Or triceps serrae.
Which is that powerful muscle group in your calf.
Okay, yeah, I know those.
That helps you push off when you run.
Right, right.
And specifically, they focused on the Achilles tendon.
Okay.
The Achilles.
So they simulated Lucy with a very small ape-like Achilles tendon and also with a more developed human-like one.
So two very different scenarios.
And regardless of these variations, the virtual Lucy could still run.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so she could run, but how fast are we talking here?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah. Like, was it a gentle jog or something that could get her out of trouble if she needed to escape?
Okay, so this might change how you picture those early hominins out on the African savanna.
Oh, intrigued.
The simulations showed that afarensis' top running speed was way slower than what a modern human can do.
Oh, really?
Like, significantly slower.
Mm.
For example, their computer model of a modern human hit about 7.9 meters per second.
Okay.
Which is roughly 17.6 miles per hour.
Okay, so that's a pretty decent clip, right?
Yeah, like a reasonably athletic person.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, when they simulated afarensis, her fastest speeds ranged from only 1.74 meters per second.
Which is about 3.9 miles per hour up to a max of 4.97 meters per second, roughly 11 miles per hour.
Okay, so that is quite a bit slower.
Yeah. And when you consider that elite human sprinters can hit over 20 miles per hour, the difference is huge.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
It is.
So even at her absolute fastest, Lucy was a lot slower than even just like a casual human runner.
Yeah, it's pretty striking.
But didn't they take into account that Lucy was smaller than us?
That's a great point, and it's important to consider.
Like, wouldn't that affect her top speed?
Yeah, it would. And to account for that size difference, they use something called Froude numbers.
Froude numbers?
Yeah, it's a way scientists compare running in animals of different sizes.
So like an elephant versus a mouse.
Exactly.
Wow.
It levels the playing field by factoring in leg length and gravity.
Oh, that's cool.
And even after they adjusted for Lucy's smaller size using these Froude numbers, her running speed, which had a range of like 0.56 to 4.57, was still much lower than the human model's Froude number of 7. So it wasn't just that she was smaller, there were fundamental differences in her running ability itself.
Okay, so that's top speed. But what about, like, how long she could keep going?
Right, good question.
I mean, maybe she wasn't a speed demon, but could she run for longer distances?
That's key to that idea of persistence hunting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So endurance running, the ability to maintain a decent speed over long distances,
Right.
it's been proposed as a really important development in human evolution.
Yeah, like being able to chase prey until it tires out, or covering
cool.
large areas to find food.
Exactly. And the simulations gave some clues about afarensis' endurance capabilities, too.
Okay, so what did they find?
Well, they looked at the range of speeds she could probably sustain for longer periods.
Okay, and what was the verdict? Could Lucy have run a marathon?
Probably not.
Okay.
The simulation suggested afarensis had a pretty limited range of sustainable running speeds, somewhere between 1.5 to 4.97 meters per second. And if you only look at the models that didn't give her human-like muscle proportions, that range gets even narrower down to about 1.42 to 2.28 meters per second.
Huh. So not a huge range?
No, not compared to what we can do. It suggests that afarensis' ability to run at even moderately fast speeds for a long time was probably pretty limited.
Okay, so not only was she slower in a sprint, but she also couldn't keep up a decent pace for very long compared to us.
That seems to be the case.
Which doesn't sound ideal if you're trying to catch dinner.
No, not really. And there's another piece to this puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
How much energy running would have cost her?
Oh, right, the energy expenditure.
The researchers looked at the metabolic costs.
Yeah.
How many calories she had burned to travel a certain distance.
Makes sense. Energy efficiency seems super important, especially if you're not built for speed.
Absolutely. And what they found was that the metabolic cost of transport, or COT for afarensis, was significantly higher than for the human model.
Okay.
Like between 1.7 and 2.9 times higher.
Wow, so she's burning a lot more calories per step.
Yeah, basically for every step Lucy took, she probably used way more energy than a modern human would covering the same distance.
Okay, so slower and more tiring. That's not a great combo.
Not ideal, but remember, smaller animals generally use more energy to move around than bigger animals do.
That's true. It's like a pound for pound thing.
Well, exactly. They factored that in when they were analyzing Lucy's energy use.
Okay, so what did they find when they compared her to other animals her size?
Well, here's a really interesting detail.
Okay.
If afarensis had a more human-like structure in her triceps surae,
That calf muscle and Achilles tendon system.
right, then her energy cost of transport was actually within the normal range for mammals and birds her size.
Oh, wow.
In some scenarios, it was even close to the average predicted values.
So maybe she wasn't that energy inefficient after all.
Compared to other animals her size, no.
Right.
The higher energy cost compared to modern humans seems to be partly due to her just being smaller.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the models where they gave her a more ape-like triceps surae?
Good question. Those models did show slightly higher energy costs than what you'd expect for her size.
Interesting. So her Achilles tendon really was holding her back in a way.
It really highlights how important that Achilles tendon and calf muscle structure is for efficient movement.
Yeah, it's all connected, right?
Yeah, think of the Achilles tendon like a spring in your leg.
Okay, a spring.
A more developed spring stores and releases more energy with each step.
So it's like a free boost.
Exactly, and that makes running less tiring.
Ah, I see.
And shorter muscle fibers are better at generating force quickly and efficiently.
So you got the power and the spring working together.
Yeah, it's a winning combo, and that's what we see in humans.
Huh, fascinating.
The simulations really emphasize how the differences in this ankle muscle setup between us and modern apes explain why we're such different runners.
Okay, so Lucy's more ape-like tendon put her at a disadvantage. But was that the only thing holding her back? What about the rest of her body?
Yeah, good question. Her overall body proportions were also likely a factor limiting her top running speed.
Okay, so even with a human-like Achilles,
Even then, yeah.
she still wouldn't have been as fast.
The researcher suggests that her relatively larger upper body and arms, combined with shorter legs compared to us, probably created a kind of fundamental limit on how fast she could run.
Yeah, I mean, longer legs would give you a longer stride, right?
Exactly. And the distribution of your body mass also affects your balance and how efficiently you can move.
Right, right.
And here's another interesting thing. The simulations also indicated that the strength of Lucy's bones wasn't likely a limiting factor in the evolution of better running.
Oh, really? So her bones were strong enough?
Based on their virtual stress tests,
Yeah.
her bones seemed strong enough to handle the forces involved.
Huh. So it was more about the muscles and the overall body shape.
It seems so, yeah.
So this is all pointing to the idea that how we're built today with our long legs and specialized calf muscles isn't just a coincidence from walking upright.
Right, it's not random.
It seems like it evolved to make us better runners.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway from this research.
Like we were meant to run.
It really supports the idea that key features of the human body plan evolved specifically for improved running performance.
As Bramble and Lieberman suggested.
Exactly, and not just as a side effect of becoming bipedal walkers.
Right, so it was a specific adaptation.
Yeah, and the development of faster top speeds and a wider range of sustainable speeds in later human ancestors probably opened up new possibilities.
Yeah, like for things like endurance hunting.
Right.
And accessing resources over greater distances.
It expanded our horizons.
So basically, our earlier image of Australopithecus trying to outrun a saber-toothed cat probably wouldn't have ended well for the Australopithecine.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Poor Lucy.
The simulations strongly suggest that afarensis just wasn't built for that kind of fast, sustained running.
Right.
Which would be necessary to escape a predator or to do persistence hunting like later Homo species might have.
Wow, this has been a really fascinating look into the running abilities of our early ancestors.
It hasn't it?
Yeah, so to sum it all up, Australopithecus afarensis could run, but was significantly slower and less efficient than modern humans.
Yeah, and the evolution of those longer legs and that super important Achilles tendon were crucial developments in us becoming the runners we are today.
Yeah, those were game changers.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder if they weren't great runners. What other adaptations did they rely on?
Right. That's the next question.
Like maybe different foraging techniques, social structures, even different cognitive abilities played a bigger role in their survival.
It highlights how complex the interplay is between physical traits and behavior throughout our evolutionary history.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it really is.
If you found this discussion as interesting as we did, we highly encourage you to check out the original research paper and other studies on hominin evolution and biomechanics.
There's a whole world of fascinating insights out there.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep running.
Yeah. But maybe not like Lucy.
Ah, right.
All right. See you later.
See ya.